A very warm welcome to all of you. I'm Deepthi, and on behalf of Fiber to Fashion, I will be moderating today's webinar on the advances in textile inks. I welcome our esteemed panelist, Mr. Padmadas Nair, R&D Leader, India Region at Dow Inc., and Mr. Jos Notermans, Commercial Manager, Digital Inks, Netherlands at SPG Prints. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining us today. Unfortunately, our third panelist from Aurora, Vietnam, could not join us today for this session. But we do have their video playing in at the end of this webinar. To begin, we all understand that conventional textile and apparel manufacturing processes can be very, very energy intensive and generates large amount of waste. And additive manufacturing technologies, in particularly direct ink writing, can address some of these issues and play an important role in the development of more sustainable industries. They can be used to build parts on demand without molds or machinery. However, when we are looking at the development of cleaner, more sustainable manufacturing, we should consider that after shaping, consolidation usually requires energy demanding treatments like drying or sintering. And few of the recent advancements in textile ink have also indicated towards a new color changing ink that could aid in health and environmental monitoring. For example, allowing clothing that switches hues when exposed to sweat, or a tapestry that shifts colors if a dangerous gas enters the room. So to achieve such goals, the industry must implement innovative approaches to manufacture more efficiently with less raw materials to build a future that is more prosperous, more just, and more secure. And who better than to discuss this today with Mr. Nair and Mr. Notermans. Coming to Mr. Nair first, sir, I would like to propose my first question to you. As we have seen that during the entire pandemic, we have had very, very high demand for PPE textiles and similar kind of textiles included in antiviral or antimicrobial market. So the global antimicrobial textile market size is projected to reach USD 13.89 million by 2027 on account of the increasing demand for hygiene. And these microbial agents can be introduced to the fabric via dyes and inks at the time of spinning or extrusion. How do you foresee the need for more R&D in this regard to target antimicrobial textiles for mass audience so that they can also be incorporated in garments?
Yeah, thanks, Dipti, and thank you for the introduction. I mean, the antimicrobial segment has come into the spotlight this year after a long time, and it's well justified. And to a large extent, we feel that the awareness towards hygiene will stay at this heightened level for a long period to come. So the need for antimicrobial solutions are here to stay. A lot of the current solutions which are being used for textile applications are based on the quartz, silane, and silver-based technologies. And they have been there since many years, and there have been developments happening in these spaces also since quite some time. Some of the developments that Dow is doing in R&D in this space is around the selection of binders which can be used with this antimicrobial agent, just so that it can be stable to the different garment processes and textile processes, so that it's much more durable during the life cycle that it goes through during use by consumers. If you look at some of the other developments which has been happening, it has been in the space of plant-based antimicrobial actives. To be honest, not many have been commercialized. Also, we need to be aware that development of new antimicrobials have been limited by the impact that they may have in developing bacterial resistance in humans. So the amount of development which needs to go into developing new antimicrobial actives is as good as developing a pharmaceutical product. So to some extent, some of that has been very limited. Also, the impact on environment due to the toxic breakdown products of some of these actives also need to be factored in. So right now, I would say current technologies which are being used, the quartz, silane, and silver still continue. Development of new binders which are durable, which make the antimicrobial active durable, that continues to evolve to help consumers have more durable end products.
Right. Mr. Joss, my next question would be to you. In terms of, we have seen that a lot is being done on the sustainability side, or trying to put in more advancements in inks for making textiles and garments environment friendly, or a less kind of industry who's wasting a lot of resources and harming the environment. So, what do you think are the most common problems that the textile industry faces with respect to printing, and what solutions do you have to offer them?
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me here and talking about printing, because that's the part where we are active as SPG Prints. And basically, we see a change in the last 1 or 2 years. Let's say 10 years ago, when digital printing came up, the focus was very much on the immediate effect it had in favorable to sustainability, was the fact that it uses a lot less energy and a lot less water. And there is a study published by Fiber to Fashion from that time, where it was showing 55% less energy and 60 to 70% less water. And all in all, top of my head, 95% less CO2 footprint. So that was mainly showing the benefit of changing from rotary printing to digital printing. Now we see increasingly the focus on within digital printing. There is still the need for a lot of the printing solutions of today to have steaming and washing of the fabric in order to fix the color. And as you can imagine, steaming and washing still takes quite some water. So now the focus is shifting to technologies to print textiles with digital technologies without the need for water. And specifically this means that with all the natural fibers, the look is to print with pigment inks, and for the polyesters to print with sublimation inks, not even the direct disperse, because that still needs water and because of steaming and washing. So there is clearly a shift to look at those technologies. The big question is, how quickly will that enter the market? Because there is some technology hurdles to be overcome. If you talk about pigments, it is putting pigment particles through inkjet heads without them clogging the heads, but also having enough color yield and all this kind of things. But at the same time, there is also the very basic discussion that the industry has the infrastructure to steam and wash. So the moment they decide to step away from the technology, they're also writing off a lot of equipment that might still be usable. So although everybody wants to contribute to sustainability, they also don't want to throw away their infrastructure in which they invested a lot. So I think those two items will determine the speed of implementation. But in the end, it will happen. The whole world is now talking about having made a radical change within one generation, and they're talking goals of 2030 to 2050. Well, I don't know by 2030, but I cannot imagine that by 2050 people will still be steaming and washing printed textiles. So it will happen. The question is, what will be the time frame?
Right. Okay. Adding on to what you mentioned, Mr. Nair, what do you think are the most advanced technologies available today for dyes and chemicals, specifically in the textile sector?
Yeah, so I mean, the area of expertise for Dow is around materials and chemistry. So I'll kind of focus my discussion related to that. I mean, related to textiles, I mean, coincidentally, just recently we have introduced a new textile finishing agent called the IE8749, which is a durable water repellent, which is a substitute for perfluorocarbons, which have been used historically in textiles for water repellent applications.
Right.
And this particular material that we launched recently won an R&D 100 award. It was developed together with Nika Chemicals of Japan. So this is in the region of more sustainable materials, which we believe are equal performance to some of the erstwhile or historical materials like perfluorocarbons. So again, a good example of where there are solutions available in the sustainable chemistry space. I think you might recollect we have recently also launched a hybrid textile binder, a Dowsel Print 41, which is based on an acrylic hybrid chemistry, which enables printers to print material and avoid high temperature cure processes. So again, an example where they can potentially save energy in textile processes. I mean, this is in the direction of materials that we are developing for various applications, including printing, where we are also planning to introduce a low temperature cure liquid silicone rubber, which can also be used for printing applications. So you can cure it at less than 100 degrees Celsius, which is a big advantage in textile processes. So there is a constant evolution and innovation happening to enable sustainable textile processes. Another R&D 100 award winner from Dow is a product called EcoFast Pure, which enables reactive dyeing to be done much more sustainable manner. By using this textile treatment, you can save energy, water, also reduce the effluent load. I mean, we have some statistics in the sense that the total dissolved solids can be reduced by 40% and the color in wastewater by 35% used by doing this textile treatment. So there are solutions available. I think we need to collaborate with value chain partners to ensure that it reaches them and and the end consumer benefits from the same.
Right. Right. Joss, as we see, regulation and sustainable certifications are at highest when it comes to inks and chemicals used in digital textile printing. And water and air pollutants such as heavy metals are great dangers to the environment, workforce, consumer. And therefore, regulations and certifications have to be both robust and enforceable. What are the best certifications that you think that the chemical and ink industry should adhere to? You're on mute, Joss.
Sorry for that. It's a very good question, and it comes to the table quite regularly. And we have seen it growing tremendously over the past couple of years. I recall that 5 years ago, we started to publish a document in which we were telling to what RSL standards, restricted substance list standards of major brands that we were complying to with our chemicals. And then you're talking about the inks in the digital side, but also the lacquers in the conventional side. And at that time, we had 8 brands on that list. Today, we have over 60 brands on that list, all having their own list of RSLs. And so we see that the industry is also looking to have some standardization in that, because it becomes impossible for all the suppliers to simply test to all those different compliances that sometimes are even a little bit in contradiction with each other. And the initiative that we have seen coming up about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, was the ZDHC, the Zero Discharge of Hazardous Chemicals. And that standard tries to build a sort of umbrella over all the RSLs that all the individual brands are carrying. They're using a gateway system on the internet where everybody can simply check for all the chemicals that if they are ZDHC registered. We did that for all our reactive inks. We finalized it, and it's also it's not only testing the chemical products that you do, but also doing an audit in your organization that all your processes are working according to that compliance ruling. And they have several grades in that, in which level 3 is the highest grade. So we are driving now to put all our inks on the ZDHC level 3 compliance. And we did that already for our major ink pass, but we're doing it now also for the others. And we do see that is going to be, for the future, I think, a very important one, as like I said, like an umbrella regulation to make sure that everybody uses the same measurement standards to see if the products are really good. One remark there is that if you look, for instance, to the initiative of REACH in Europe, it is always a topic of discussion when not the whole world is using the same standard. So because then you get that regions can profit from the limitations that other regions in the world are having. Maybe a bit of an obscure comparison. One of the things that we have now with the COVID-19 is that it's a worldwide problem. Everybody is in the same boat. Okay. And of course, climate is exactly the same. It's a worldwide problem, whether Mr. Trump wants to admit it or not. It is a worldwide issue, and it can only succeed if the whole world works together. And the same is with this kind of things. If you make a regulation to save our environment, then you have to do it on a worldwide basis. So I truly hope that an initiative like ZDHC remains independent and will be applicable worldwide, because then it can really change the industry to the best.
Right. So what you're talking about is a global standard that we have for dyes and chemicals, which the entire global dyes and chemical industries can adhere to. But I believe that will still be a challenge, because a lot of dyes and chemical industries in the developing nations are in the unorganized sector, and abiding to that kind of regulation or that kind of standard will come along a significant change in the infrastructure cost of these players. So I believe that it will take a lot of time for that kind of a regulation to come in. What do you say?
Yeah, I agree with you, but it starts with everybody recognizing that something has to happen. And yeah, if I again use the parallel to the climate discussions, then there was things like the Paris Agreement are needed, that everybody aligns themselves to the regulations and the agreements that were made there. And I think the chemical industry in general, not only for our textile value chain, has to agree on a global level what should be our approach to make sure that we don't bring those heavy metals into the environment and the air pollutions. And that means everybody has to embrace it. And I agree with you, that takes time before everybody is aligned. But in the end, yeah, what is the alternative? If you don't do it, you continue to waste the planet, and then maybe not anymore for my generation, and maybe not even for my kids' generation, but then the one after that for sure. So to me, it's a very simple human responsibility that we all have. And yeah, that's what we have to preach to get everybody aligned.
Right. Mr. Nair, as Dow Inc., what steps are you taking to make the ink industry more sustainable?
I think the ink industry has evolved well in alignment with regulations and trends towards sustainability. And in fact, one of the trends over the past decade or so has been the evolution of inkjet printing. I think that's had a significant multiplier effect in terms of how not only developing solutions for inkjet printing, but overall that concept of inkjet printing is taking us towards a much more sustainable future. I mean, like Josh mentioned, I think current regulations already, which are in place, like REACH, prevent use of SVHC containing materials. And if you remember, PVC containing materials have already been banned for use on textiles since many years, if not a decade now. And so a lot of that has been accounted for by various regulations. At the same time, we need to be aware and cognizant of the fact that end consumers or markets need materials which are more durable and high performing. And we need to achieve that keeping in mind the environmental footprint of products. And if possible, by using products which have positive carbon footprints. So that's a fairly interesting challenge to material suppliers and to companies in the value chain for textiles. So Dow has a whole portfolio of solutions around inks. We have, like I said, developed low temperature cure liquid silicone rubbers, which can be used for printing applications. Our solution, which we recently launched, a hybrid binder, the Dowsel Print 41, takes us in the direction of more sustainable materials for the ink industry. And I think what is also very important is a very close partnership with stakeholders in the entire value chain, right. The brand owners, the ink suppliers, so as to introduce some of the sustainable materials, keeping the needs of the future in mind. And I think the material suppliers like Dow, we are up to it.
Right, that's great. Similar question to you, Josh. As SPG Prints, what steps are you taking to make the printing industry more sustainable?
In general, we look at all the fields where we are active. What can we do there? And we did a couple of years ago. We had a study done cradle to grave for the production of our rotary screens, so on the rotary side, but also for the inks on the digital side. Split it in two steps. One we called cradle to gate. This is where we as a producer can help to reduce our carbon footprint. And the second stage is gate to grave. This is basically where the customer is using our products and what properties can we give to our products to make sure that our customers can also contribute to a lower CO2 print. If I look to the first part, of course, this is directly influenceable by ourselves, and we've taken a lot of steps in terms of working with green energy, making rotary screens as an electroforming process. So we use a lot of electricity. Better use green electricity there, but also, for instance, our ink production here in the Netherlands has a zero effluent of water into the environment. So all the water that we use is cleaned and used again. So there's zero effluent. But also, for instance, rotary screens, they are made of nickel, and when they're not used anymore, we buy them back from our customers and we reuse the nickel. And in that way, we are in a recycling mode there. If we then look to the usage phase, so how can we help our customers to use to have a lower carbon footprint? In the rotary, we have been continuously developing new screen technology, in which the aim is always to reduce the waste of paste, but also to reduce the usage of paste. So while we were so very active in digital, some of our customers were asking us, hey, is digital replacing rotary? Well, me as a digital guy, I would love that to happen, but I'm also realistic. And seeing that the majority of the printing is still rotary because of a lot of reasons, but rotary is still growing. The amount of printing in the world is still growing with between 1% and 3% per year, depending on the growth of the world population, but also some economical influences. And that means that also rotary is still growing. And for that, we have developed new screens, our Orta screens, complete new structure of screens, which use less paste to print the same image. And less paste means less footprint. And we developed our random eco screens with the same idea, reduce the amount of paste that is used. And with a longer screen life, they also have to use less or reuse less screens. On the digital side, well, of course, digital by itself, like also already said by Mr. Nair, it by itself has a big influence on reducing the carbon footprint. But also there, developments on the usage side include making technology changes so that the amount of ink per meter used is lower. That means also that the cost for the customer is lower, so that our customers like it because it reduces the price of digital printing. But it also has the nice side effect that you have a less effect on the environment. And of course, I already mentioned that people are looking to technologies where they don't need to steam and wash. So we have been investing in the last 2 years a lot in our sublimation ink program. And we're also now working through several ways on battling the technical and the economical downsides of pigments so that we can launch a satisfying pigment solution to our customers within the next time. I hope next year already to release something, but yeah, it's R&D. You never know when you have the product ready for market launch. But so there's a lot of areas where we are working on. We even have if you go on the YouTube site and you look for SPG Print Sustainable, you will find a 3 or 4 minute video covering all the aspects of our worldwide organization, including India. We have a factory for screens in Ahmedabad in India. And I always say if I would parachute somebody into the factory, they would think they are in a Western factory because everything is according to our international standards in terms of sustainable producing. So we're doing a lot on that because as a market leader, we feel also obliged that we have to give the right example, beside the fact that there is a ethical sense to all of us that we have to leave the planet to our children in the right way.
Absolutely. One last question to both of you, which a lot of our existing clients have been repeatedly asking me now. This is a very generic question, but we would like to have answer from both of you. This is on how significantly do you think COVID-19 pandemic has affected your supply chain?
If I may start, it is still ongoing. I mentioned to you at the start that we are going into the second phase, or we are in the second wave here in the Netherlands at this moment. And from the beginning, we have been looking, okay, what does it mean in terms of, on one side, our supply, but also on the other side, our customers. And if I look to the digital side, they are the largest customer base is in the fashion industry. And the fashion industry is still sorting out what exactly will happen. We have seen that a lot of brands have basically stored their summer 2020 collections, and they said we will bring it to 2021, which means when we first heard that, we thought, okay, this means that at least until the summer of 2021, we are in a disruptive situation. I think apart from that fact, in general, more and more it looks like this whole virus thing is staying longer than we thought when it was first occurring. So yes, it does have an influence, but being an optimistic guy, I also always see the positive sides of it. And I think on the positive side, it has brought the world to realize that some things are not as automatic as we always thought they were. So it has pushed a reset button at certain stages where we were getting a little bit crazy. And I've read articles about brands that are now saying instead of 5 fashion shows a year, we will do 3. And I see people working more conscious with their clothing than they did a year ago.
Right.
So I do think that is a positive effect of it. Some of our customers now are seriously suffering because they have less work to do and they have to lay off people. And that, of course, is a negative point, which is now at the moment hard to predict how long that will take. But in the end, it will result that we will be more conscious on what we're doing and making sure that that we do it in the most ethical way. So I don't know the timeline, to be honest, how long this will take. But again, being an optimistic guy, I think in the end the positive things will win.
Yeah, let's hope so. Mr. Nayak, what are your views on that?
Yeah, kind of. I would somewhat echo Josh's sentiment when it comes to the optimism. I think, I think this year has been kind of a very different year for everyone. I think organizations have risk mitigation plans and even epidemic prevention plans, which I think got triggered this year, and especially Q1, Q2 has been fairly disruptive for most market segments.
Right.
But I mean things seem things are for sure improving. We are. I mean, some segments of the market have been fairly resilient through the through the situation. Some of the segments like textiles, we see improvements happening since Q3, and I think this will all continue into next year. For sure, there is going to be changes in consumer behavior, which we have to closely understand and watch. For example, we spoke about antimicrobials. So some of that impact on consumer behavior will remain for the long term. So which can also be considered as a positive for the industry in terms of the need for hygiene related items. So broadly, Q3 improving. I think consumer demand seems to be coming back. I mean, we don't know what the future holds in terms of whether there are any disruptions related to the infection which will come again. But I believe there are some good learnings over the past quarters, which hopefully has made industry and economies much more resilient and will handle this in a better manner in the coming quarters.
Indeed, let's hope so. And this really was a very, very positive approach which I have received from both of you as part of the industry towards the future. Thank you so much. This brings me to the end of this webinar. We would now like to present a short video on the Aurora Industrial Park in Vietnam, which possesses the systems of wastewater plant and water supply plant with a top capacity in Vietnam, which is certainly a requirement in sustainability for the dyes and chemicals industry. We do hope this webinar was useful, and we will continue to bring on more such webinars to you during our sourcing fair. Have a good day. Thank you.
Welcome to Giảng Đồng Textile Industrial Park. Aurora IP, a project of Cát Tường Real Estate Group. Aurora IP is envisioned to become the very first green, clean, sustainable industrial park in Vietnam, explicitly serving for the development of the Vietnamese textile industry. In the southeast of Red River Delta of 150 kilometers from Hanoi, Aurora IP is at Giảng Đồng Town, Nghĩa Hưng District, Nam Định Province, which is well known as a cradle of Vietnamese textile industry. Nam Định Province has deployed their financial and investment resources in two ground transportation projects connecting Aurora IP to the North-South National Highway and the coastal economic route together with the local seaport of Hai Tĩnh within 10 kilometers from the IP. Aurora IP spread over an area of about 520 hectares, composing of commercial leasing units, technical and infrastructure land, workers' living quarter, and IP administration and service lots. The first component of the commercial area for leasing factory building accounts for approximately 320 hectares, equivalent to over 61% of total area. The land use is designed for yarn production, located at the west gate next to the fabric production area, followed by the garment zone. Logistic land located near the IP is main entrance gate connecting to highway and coastal economic route. Secondly, almost 35% is dedicated to greenery and technical land, internal road system, and logistic zone. Aurora IP's water supply total capacity amounts to 170,000 cubic meters per day-night, exploiting from local Day River with intake at 16 kilometers from the IP. The IP-wide total wastewater treatment capacity of 110,000 cubic meters per day-night shall be duly treated and monitored to ensure qualify for a parameter of Vietnamese national technical regulations and plan to recycle up to 60% of wastewater. The remaining 4% is utilized for IP administration and service, co-working space for tenants and workers' living quarter with dormitory, kindergarten, banking and post offices, supermarkets, and Aurora Training Center. Though prepared to accommodate fabric production, including dyeing process, Aurora IP is designed as an industrial park in the forest with over 70 hectares for greenery, landscape, lakes, and canal. The IP develops a 17-kilometer green fence of casuarina trees and canal, instead of any commonly used concrete wall, and a nursery garden of 5 hectares for plantation and landscape lake. The IP bordering fence and greenery aisles is perfectly matched with the surrounding area of mangrove field bordering the IP. The greenery aisles along all IP internal roads, a marine ecosystem, resort fields, an aquaculture area, an ecotourism area. Additionally, solar power plant source of electricity supply for its lighting and CCTV, together with rooftop solar power installation for factories. On our roadmap to become a green, clean, sustainable textile industrial park and a textile fashion hub, Aurora IP shall employ approximately 40,000 people and provide 1 billion meters of fabric annually for Vietnamese textile supply chain. Aurora IP is confidently presenting as one of the top choice investment destinations in Vietnam. We much look forward to welcoming you to Aurora IP.